Hello, it's Becky with Bemom. We're in the Christmas season, and today's story isn't directly a Christmas story, but it does deal with some fun things that have to do with Christmassy kinds of things. So we're reading another story from Beatrix Potter. We're going to read a story called The Two Very Bad Mice. The Tale of the Two Bad Mice. Once upon a time, there was a very beautiful doll's house. It was red brick with white windows, and it had real muslin curtains and a front door and a chimney. It belonged to two dolls called Lucinda and Jane. At least, it belonged to Lucinda, but she never ordered meals. Jane was the cook, but she never did any cooking because the dinner had been bought ready-made and was full of shavings. There's the pretty red brick house, and there's the two dolls. There were 2 red lobsters and a ham, a fish and pudding, and some pears and oranges. They would not come off the plates, but they were extremely beautiful. One morning, Lucinda and Jane had gone out for a drive in the doll's perambulator, which is like a baby carriage. There was no one in the nursery, and it was very quiet. Presently, there was a little scuffling, scratching noise in the corner near the fireplace, where there was a hole under the skirting board. Tom Thumb put out his head for a moment and then popped it back in again. Tom Thumb was a mouse. A minute afterwards, Hunca-Munca, his wife, put her head out too, and she saw that there was no one in the nursery, so she ventured out on the oilcloth under the coal bed. The doll's house stood at the other side of the fireplace, and Tom Thumb and Hunca-Munca went cautiously across the hearth rug, and they pushed the front door. It was not held very fast or locked at all. So there is Tom Thumb, and there is his wife Hunca-Munca looking out the hole, and they are scurrying to the house. Oh, not their house. Tom Thumb and Hunca-Munca went upstairs and peeped into the dining room and then squealed with joy. Such a lovely dinner was laid out on the table, and there were tin spoons and lead forks and knives and 2 dolly chairs, all so convenient. Tom Thumb set to work at once to carve the ham. It was beautifully shiny yellow and streaked with red, and the knife crumpled up and hurt him. And he put his finger in his mouth. "It's not boiled enough. It's too hard. You have a try," he said to Hunca-Munca. So Hunca-Munca stood up in her chair and chopped at the ham with another lead knife. "It's hard as hams at the cheesemonger," said Hunca-Munca. And the ham broke off the plate with a jerk and rolled under the table. "Let it alone," said Tom Thumb. "Give me some fish, Hunca-Munca." There they are, trying at the ham. Oh dear. There it goes. Hunca-Munca tried every tin spoon in turn, and the fish was glued to the dish. Then Tom Thumb lost his temper, and he put the ham in the middle of the floor and hit it with the tongs and the shovel. Bang, bang, smash, smash! And ham pieces flew all over the place, and underneath the shiny paint, there was nothing but plaster. Then there was no end to the rage and disappointment of Tom Thumb and Hunca-Munca. They broke up the pudding and the lobsters and the pears and the oranges, and the fish would not come off the plate. They put it into the red-hot, crinkly paper fire in the kitchen, but it would not burn either. Tom Thumb went to the kitchen chimney and looked at the top. There was no soot. Uh-oh. While Tom Thumb was up on the chimney, Hunca-Munca had another disappointment. She found some tiny canisters upon the dresser labeled rice, coffee, sago, but when she turned them upside down, there was nothing in them except for red and blue beads. Then all of those mice set to work to do all the mischief they could, especially Tom Thumb, and took Jane's clothes out of the closet and the drawers in the bedroom and threw them out the top floor of the window. But Hunca-Munca had a frugal mind, and after pulling half the feathers off Lucinda's bolster, she remembered that she wanted a feather bed. And with Tom Thumb's assistance, she carried it downstairs and across the hearthrug. It was difficult to squeeze it into the mouse hole, but they managed it somehow. And then Hunca-Munca came back and fetched a chair and a bookcase and a bird cage and several odds and ends, and the bookcase and the bird cage refused to go into the mouse hole. There they are, dumping things out and pulling things apart. And now they're stealing things. And it won't fit. Kitty is listening to me. A baby girl. Hunca-Munca left them behind in the coal box and went to fetch a cradle. Hunca-Munca was just returning with another chair when suddenly there was a noise of talking outside the landing. The mice rushed into their hole and the dolls came into the nursery. What a sight met the eyes of Jane and Lucinda. Lucinda was sat upon the upset kitchen stove and stared, and Jane leaned against the kitchen dresser and smiled, but neither of them made any remark. The bookcase and the bird cage were rescued from under the coal box, but Hunca-Munca has got the cradle and some of Lucinda's clothes. Oh dear. She also has some useful pots and pans and several other things. The little girl that the doll's house belonged to said, "I will get a doll dressed like a policeman." But the nurse said, "I will set a mouse trap." And that is the story of the two bad mice. But they were not so very, very naughty after all, because Tom Thumb paid for everything he broke. He found a crooked sixpence, which is a coin, under the hearth rug, and upon Christmas Eve, he and Hunca-Munca stuffed it into one of Lucinda and Jane's stockings. And very early every morning, before anyone is awake, Hunca-Munca comes with her dustpan and her broom to sweep the dolly's house. The end. They learned their lesson, didn't they? That's very good. And that's the end of our story. Now, moms and dads, if you are enjoying this channel, please subscribe and watch my videos. If there are some that you like, the stories for children, but if there's some of the other videos that you like, please click like. And if you do like the stories, do click like on the stories. I'm getting some of those. I like that. You can't comment on the stories, but you can comment on the adult videos. So go ahead and do that. That is a big help. I like hearing about what kinds of things are interesting. If there's information that would be helpful, or information that you think is interesting. I would love to hear about that. If there's particular kinds of stories or an author or the title of a book that you know your children might enjoy listening to instead of necessarily reading, just please let me know. I know some people use this as like a time for their kids to have nap time or a story time or things like that. And I'm so glad I can do that for you guys. So have a great Christmas, and we will talk to you next week.